What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Python video. In this video we're going to be creating a project with functions, which I talked about in my previous video. The background of this project is going to be you're a gamer, you played a game 5 times and you got 5 different scores, and what we're going to do in this program is find the average of those scores, and based on that average what prize you get. Um, the prizes that I have made up is if your average score is a 90 or above, we're getting a PS5. If it's an 80 or above, we're getting an iPad Pro. 70 or above, it's a Funko Pop of your choice. 60 or above, it's a hat. And if it's anything below 60, then we're getting candy. So first, what I want to do is just make my list of scores. I'm going to create a quick list. That's just random scores. So no, we'll do 25. So we have our list of the different scores we got. And now we want to create a function that finds the averages of these scores. And since we are going to use the function down here, we need to create the function up above def. And we're going to call this function average of scores. And for our parameter, we'll bring scores because the average of our score solely depends on whatever our score actually is. So in this function, I'm going to be using two functions that are built into Python, meaning that we don't have to define these functions. Python already did that for us. We just have to call upon them and they're used just like that. The two functions are the sum function and the len function. Sum function finds the sum. The len function finds the length. And obviously when you're finding an average, you want to find the sum of all those numbers and divide it by how many of those numbers there are. So to find the sum, I'm going to create a variable called sum of scores. I'm going to set it equal to sum, a function name, and then scores. And for our next variable, we're going to call it attempts and we attempted this 5 times since we have 5 different scores. But to find that number, we would do len, that's our function, and do scores. And finally, we're going to create a variable called average score. And set that equal to sum of scores divided by attempts, since that's how you find the average of something. We're going to return this average score value. Now going back down here, now since we have the function to find the average, we're actually going to print the average now. So we're going to create another variable called average score, set that equal to, and then since this is where we're going to use our function, we would put our function name here, average of scores, print your average score is average score. So now if I print this, it says your average score is 85.6. So we have our average score now, and now we just need the program to have our prize pool, decide what prize we're going to get. And to do that, we're going to create another function. Now, when I think about something that can decide different outcomes based on a specific condition, the first thing that pops into my head is if statements. That is what we're going to use. So for this function that we're creating, this function decides what prize we get based on our average score, which we already found right here. So I'm going to call this function prize pool. And our parameter would be average score, since like I just said, our prize pool depends on what our average score is. The prize we get depends what our average score is. Now we're going to do a set of if statements that show our prizes. So if my average score is greater than or equal to 90, then my prize variable is going to be a PS5. Next, if our average score greater than or equal to 80, our prize variable is gonna be a iPad Pro. Actually, going down the list. And obviously, else anything under 60 is gonna be candy. And we're gonna return our prize variable or the value. So now we have our function that decides what we get based on our average score. So now what we're going to do is come back down here and we're going to print it. So our prize equals function name, which is prize pool, average score. Next, we're going to print the prize you get is a/n. And then we're putting our prize variable in there. So now this should be our fully complete program. We find the average of our scores, and then based on the average, we find what prize we get. Now, if I run this, it should say your average score is 85.6. The prize you get is an iPad Pro. And if we go back to the function, we know it's true because 85.6 falls between right here, which is an iPad Pro. So this about wraps up this program and this video. This is just an example of how you would use functions and more than one function because we use two functions in this case. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.